In today's video, I want to show you how to make one of my favorite gift ideas. Now it's a no-sew project and it's a great stash buster. So we are using our fabric. It's a fabric book cover using Mod Podge. Let me show you how to make this really quick and easy gift. We're going to start off with a notebook, and any notebook will do because we're going to take the measurements and then cut to measure. Now I love these composition notebooks. They've got really nice thick cardboard covers. They work a treat. They're only about 50 cents to $1 in any store across the whole of the United States. If you're in somewhere like New Zealand or Australia, this is very similar to an exercise book. So the first thing we're going to do is just take a tape measure, and we want to measure the front side around the spine and across to the back. And that measures about 15 inches. Then what we need to do is add on 1.5 inches per side, so 3 inches. So 15 plus 3 is 18. Then we're going to measure the length of the notebook. And this one is almost 10. Now these measurements don't have to be exact. This is more of a craft project. So I'm going to say 10, and then again I'm going to add on 1.5 inches for either side, making that 3. So 10 plus 3 is 13. So I need to cut a piece of fabric that measures around 18 inches by 13 inches. Now, one thing to note is these books do come in different colors. The black is obviously the darkest. Now you need to just quickly audition your fabric. I'm going to use this beautiful Ruby Star Society fabric, which is actually one of my favorite prints, but I can see the writing through it. Now I don't want that, so you've got two options. You could choose a different fabric that's either a bit darker or perhaps a bit thicker, so that you won't see what's going on the original notebook. And trust me, I have made a lot of these, and there are fabrics that work perfectly fine without doing anything extra. But if you have your heart set on a print like I do, what you can do is just quickly give it a coat of paint. Now I've just really gone over it with white paint, and on the inside I just wanted to soften this up so you wouldn't see that either on the inside. And one little tip I have is when you are painting it, just pop a piece of paper inside it here so that when you're painting it, you're not accidentally getting all the sheets of paper and so on. So I've got my fabric here. It measures around 13 inches by 18 inches. Let's start gluing. So I've got my piece of fabric here that I want to use for my cover, and you might notice the salvages are still there. With Ruby Star Society fabric, people do like to use the salvages just for a bit of fun, so I'm going to leave that there. Then I'm going to fold it in half so the wrong sides are facing each other. I've got the raw edges on my right and the fold on my left here. Then I'm going to take my notebook, open it up and pop it in so that the spine of the notebook is right on that fold there. And then I'm just going to check that I've got the fabric facing the right way. My fabric is directional, going this way and this way, but that is right, like that. It's so cute. Seeds of creativity, seeds of kindness. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing. Now what we're going to do is, once we're happy with how it's sitting, I might just move this over a little bit so it's sitting like that. You can fold that in just to check you're happy. And I think that looks cute. I'll be folding it over a little bit more than the bottom, but it's fine. So now what I'm going to do is open that up, and then we're going to start with our Mod Podge and carefully cover our front cover and our spine with our Mod Podge. Now this is the amazing product. It's called Mod Podge that we'll be using. I like the classic Mod Podge and in matte. This is a ginormous jar of it because I make a lot of these notebooks, but you can get much smaller jars than this. So it seems ridiculous to show you this, but this is how I buy it. I'm sorry. So it's just the Mod Podge in matte. Then what I'm going to do is open it up, pop my paintbrush in. Now the key with Mod Podge, especially because we're using the fabric, is not to apply too much because we don't want it to really make our fabric wet and leave wet marks. What we want it to do is just attach the fabric to the notebook. So I'm going to start with the spine and just run my paintbrush along the spine. Then I'm going to get some more Mod Podge, and I'm just going to do a really light once over. And If you wanted to, at this point, you could just pop a piece of paper in between the first page and the cover to make sure you're not going to get it on any of your pages. So I like to just do a really light layer. We don't want to be too heavy-handed and excessive. Okay, and then once you're sure that you've just got one nice layer across the whole notebook, I'll just set that aside. Now, I like to do this once and for all. Like, it's like the Duracell when you're covering kids' books. If you put it down and then try ripping it up again, you're going to damage the notebook, or if you've painted it, you're going to damage the paint. So we've kind of got one shot at this, but it's much easier than contact, that sticky contact, so don't worry. I'm going to lift up the fabric and then I'm going to press it along the spine. And then I'm just going to slowly drop it down, and as I do, I'm just going to slowly apply pressure to the fabric as I lower my fabric. And it's done. And that looks perfect to me. Then what we're going to do is just flip it over and do the back. And we're going to just do exactly the same thing. I'm going to just do that spine again. I can see it's not quite glued on. And then just a nice once over on the whole notebook. Well, sorry, on the whole back of the notebook, that is. Okay, and then once we've got our back of our notebook covered nicely, we're going to do exactly the same. I'm going to lift it up. I'm pressing it along the spine there. And then I'm going to slowly bring it over and then press down the fabric and smooth it down as I slowly drop the fabric down. And there we have the back. And that's looking awesome. So what you could do now is just leave it for a few hours just to let that glue dry. But if you're in a rush, you can move on to the next step, just being really careful not to disturb anything. So what I'm going to do is open it up, and what I like to do on the corners is just round them, and it's not because you're going to see it. I just find somehow it makes it a little bit easier to work with. So I'm just going to round that corner. Then exactly where the corner is, I want to cut 2 lines like that. Now none of this has to be perfect, and the more you make, the better you'll get at this. My scissors are blunt. And again there. So can you see that I've like cut out like a V? But then I'm going to cut another one just straight up and down next to it. Sorry, cut another piece. So that's just straight up and down, and then on this side as well. So just to show you again what I've done that one cut, making the V, and then I've done the 2 side cuts that are just straight up and down along the bottom and the side of the notebook. So we've got 3 cuts there. Then what I'm going to do is take a bit of glue and just apply it to this corner of the notebook. Then I'm going to take the center one and bring it straight up and fold it down. And then I'm going to push it out and smooth it out. And if anything, you want to pull that a little bit tightly. We want it to be sitting really nice and taut. Then I'll get a little bit more glue and go over the top of that fabric. And then I'll bring up each side and do the same. Apply a bit more glue. Oops, that might have been a bit much. Bring over this side, and that's how we do our corners. Then we need to bring up this side. So what I'm going to do is take my scissors and really carefully cut along where the center of the spine is, right up next to the book, or to the edge of the notebook rather. I wish my scissors were a bit sharper. There we go. Then I'm going to apply some more glue Now, it doesn't matter if you put too much glue on this side because it will just dry, and we are going to be covering that with fabric too. So then I'm going to bring this up, and again, if anything, we want it really nice and taut. So I'm going to push that edge up. And if you've got excess like this, you could just quickly bring that down and trim it. Or you could have just pushed it underneath, trying to make it look tidy. Whatever you find the easiest. I've just given that a little trim. Just going to push that down there and push all this down so it looks nice and tidy. Then I'm going to do the same on this corner and this side, and then I'll fold this piece down. If you're enjoying this video, please do subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss out on another video. It really helps me out and I appreciate it so much. Okay, so now I've finished this side of the cover. Now I have pushed that up nice and tight against the edge of the cover. I will just cut these loose threads. Now, I do recommend just waiting until this side's dry to then move over onto the other side. Now I'm just going to do the other side, and one thing to note is if you do need to speed up the drying process, you can just use a hairdryer or something like that. It definitely helps to help that glue dry quicker. So that bit's all done and it's dried really nicely. I actually left it overnight. Now I do recommend, if you've got time, is to between every step let it dry, because you'll get much nicer results. If you rush it, like for example, and close this when it's not quite dry, the dampness from the Mod Podge will make your paper go warped, and you will just get little bits of Mod Podge on the paper, etc, etc. So if you can, just leave a little bit of time between each step. Now what we're going to do is cut our fabric for this inside sleeve. So I'll just close my book and measure it. And then what we're going to do is cut our fabric 1/2 inch smaller than the measurement. So this measures just a little bit larger than 9.5 inches. So I'll cut it by 9 inches, and then this is 7.5 inches, so 7 inches. So 9 inches by 7 inches. I'll cut 2 pieces. Then all I'll do is open up my book, take my Mod Podge, and I'll just grab my piece of fabric, and we're going to glue that down there. Now I'm going to apply the Mod Podge almost all the way up to the edge, but we know it's going to be about 1/4 inch short all the way around. So I'll just do my best guess. And I do apply a little bit more on the inside cover because it doesn't matter so much. I just don't like that glue coming through on the front. And I mean, I'm just giving you how I like to do it. If you make a whole heap of these, I'm sure you're going to come up with the way you like to make them. And that's the best thing about making things yourself, right? Is you can take an idea and then make it work for you and improve the idea, change the idea. It's one of the best things about being a creative person. So you can make it whatever you like. Okay, and then when you're happy with how much glue you've applied, what I like to do is start on this inside spine here. So just take the very edge of the fabric, line it up with the spine, and also check that you're happy with how it's spaced at the top and the bottom. And when you are happy, I just run my finger along there, and then I just slowly run my fingers down, smoothing it out really slowly. Okay, and that looks good to me. Now these loose threads here, I'm actually just going to trim them. So I find you can either trim the threads, which is usually the best idea, or you can get a paintbrush and just really carefully brush them into the seam, and then they'll dry like that and you'll never know they're there. Okay, I'll do exactly the same for the back. But first I'm just going to let this dry, like I said, so I don't warp my paper. And then we'll be done. So isn't that just a great stash buster? It's a really neat way to use up some of your favorite fabric, or perhaps you're in the shops and you see a fabric you know someone would love. This is a great way to use it up. So I hope you love these fabric book covers as much as I do. I've made a ton of them and given them away, and everyone loves them. Now, if you do have a Cricut, you could personalize them even further by putting a little slogan on the front. I know I've made them in the past as prayer journals, and they look absolutely beautiful. If you've got other ideas of what you'd like to be making this Christmas as gifts, please let me know. Leave a comment down below, because we're all looking for inspiration right about now. And you might like to check out a really popular video of mine where I give you my top 10 handmade gifts to make. I'll put the link up above. Thank you so much for watching till the very end. I really appreciate you.